And welcome back. As Breast Cancer Awareness Month, that's the month of October, comes to an end today, Wake Up Nigeria beams a searchlight on various diagnostic issues in Nigeria. Joining me to discuss this topic, Misdiagnosis, Nigeria's silent killer, is Dr. Abasi Ene-Obong, CEO of Diagnose Africa. But before we begin our chat, let's take a look at this report put together by Betty Egedo.
Over the years, Nigeria has been limited in providing some healthcare services and diagnosis due to non-availability of health facilities and equipment. Research has proven that about 100,000 Nigerian women have breast cancer yearly, of which the survival rate is 10%, due to an inability to differentiate breast cancer types using molecular techniques, among other reasons.
I spent the past decade or so working in the US and the UK in the healthcare space, where it was always easy to find whatever health information I needed to find. I came back to Nigeria and I observed that the diagnostic pathway in Nigeria is broken, and two, people are not aware of what choices they have. Actually, in the healthcare space in Nigeria, people don't have choices.
Today, the narrative is looking different and positive as healthcare is now being made easy in Africa and indeed Nigeria, as Diagnose Africa now provides genetic testing and other hard-to-access diagnostic services, including treatment tools for healthcare providers through an online platform.
Well, it's a good one for the healthcare system because we've come a long way not to know these things within Africa. It's high time we have this infused in our healthcare system. It's something that will help doctors too. It's faster, it's better than just, leaving my house, going to the hospital. Now they can come to your house, they can come at your own convenience. So it makes it more convenient for doctors, for patients, for everybody, the whole stakeholders generally.
With this kind of innovative development in the health sector, solutions to diagnosis will be readily available.
All right, so Dr. Abasi is joining me now, and misdiagnosis, that's a big issue. Now, there are several factors, and I want us to address them very, very quickly. First is competence, technical competence, okay, and all of that, and then a number of other issues as well, lack of funds, government, private sector. Just talk to us about why this is such a big problem in Nigeria.
Okay, so the way I see it, in Nigeria we have a lot of epidemics. An epidemic is a public health issue that explodes, because you don't do something to curb it. And in Nigeria, we have quite a few of those. Many of those lead to cancers. Now, what if I told you that in Nigeria, 30 million people are positive for hepatitis B or C?
Wow.
Right? And of those 30 million people, the majority do not know because hepatitis B and C do not show symptoms for about 20 years. And then by the time it shows symptoms, it's already too late because the patient has either liver cirrhosis or liver cancer, which has become one of the top 5 cancers in the country now. And in Nigeria, we haven't performed one single liver transplant, which means most of those patients are going to die.
So how do we move? I mean, there seems to be, everybody's just heading downhill. So how do we begin to move uphill and begin to solve these issues? Because it just looks like, I mean, with the statistics that you just put out there, they're scary statistics. 30 million people living with a disease, and it looks like a majority of them are going to die.
Well, I mean, there's a number of ways to tackle it. One is people have to take charge of their health. In other words, you need to start asking the questions. What tests do I need? Previously in Nigeria, it was difficult to find these tests. Now with the platform called Diagnose Me, www.diagnoseme.africa, you can actually check to see your risk for breast cancer, for instance. So if somebody wanted to see if I have the genes that would predispose me to breast cancer, prostate cancer, ovarian cancer, it's a simple website click away.
So you just go to the website.
You go to the website.
Enter your details, or how
you buy a test, right? So you go to a website, you buy a test. Now again, let's take a step back. Previously in Nigeria, most of our labs do not have the capabilities to offer tests. So these capabilities are molecular diagnostic and genetic testing capabilities. I can say authoritatively that 99% of our labs in Nigeria are not equipped to handle such tests. So
99%?
Yes. Even the biggest labs in Nigeria.
And these are just like regular tests that you can get elsewhere outside the country?
Yes, you can outside the country. In fact, they've moved away from most of the routine tests that we do. Because here's the thing about routine tests. Routine tests don't always give you 100% certainty. Like if I did an STD test, it could tell me I have a particular STD, but there's still like a 50 to 80% certainty. Whereas if I did a DNA test for the same STD, it tells me 100% that I have this, even before it shows symptoms.
But the cost, though, because at the end of the day, I think one of the biggest challenges that we have in Nigeria is you go to a hospital, and usually the hospital is not equipped to do a series of tests.
Yes.
No matter what symptoms that, so they will then give you a piece of paper and tell you go to the lab to do it. So a lot of people try to avoid such things, and then, which is when
the issue even is the fact that the labs don't even do this test. So most of these tests we're talking about, if you went to a hospital, they'll refer you to the UK or to the US.
Wow. Okay.
That's the point.
Right.
And so by the time you look at the bill to travel to the UK, to the US to do these tests, I mean, it's hugely inflated. Yeah. So the first problem is not even cost. The first problem is access. The fact that you before couldn't find these tests. Now, when you can find the test available in the country, that's the first, solution. And the second solution is, how do we actually now reduce the prices? Right. Now, let me give you an example. There is a cancer called non-small cell lung cancer. It's the most common form of lung cancer. Now, what people don't realize is cancers are not one disease. Even lung cancer is a group of different diseases. So when you look at lung cancer, the cancer I just talked about, there is a gene called EGFR, right? And if somebody has a mutation in that gene, a particular drug is actually prescribed. So most drugs...
That will then prevent the cancer?
No, to treat the cancer. I'm talking about treatment here. Okay. So most cancer drugs are personalized, they're specific. They work according to your genes. Right? So if you have lung cancer and you don't have that particular mutation, what that means is you get put on another drug, whereas if you have this mutation, you get put on a drug called erlotinib.
Yeah, so that there's then no misdiagnosis.
Yes. Now the issue in Nigeria, and this happens in in almost all the leading teaching hospitals, is that the doctors cannot actually do that test to tell a patient if they have that mutation.
They do a lot of guesswork.
Yes, so they put them on the drug anyways. And now what that means is a 50-50 chance, right? Because if I have the gene, if I have the mutation, then the drug works for me. If I don't have it,
then the drug doesn't work. Okay, so let's talk about, we don't have that much time. Okay. We just have a minute or two left. Let's talk about how we can get the private sector and also the government involved in ensuring that we have a more robust diagnostic system in the country.
So yes, so like I said, my company is Diagnose Africa, and we've created this platform that allows doctors from the comfort of their offices to order over 300 tests that before they couldn't easily access. Right? So this is something happening in the private sector. And then consumers, you and I, from our homes can order allergy tests, non-invasive prenatal tests. So basically, a pregnant woman now can check whether her fetus has Down syndrome or sickle cell from just a simple blood draw. So you don't even have to go in and have the amniocentesis, which increases the risk of miscarriage. Right? So we've made all these tests available and accessible and convenient. And it's all in one platform. And so that's one of the things we're doing on the private sector side. Of course, we want more players to come into this space because you need an ecosystem to build an industry. In terms of the government, well, we hope the government will begin to invest in health.
I do not.
The government is obviously not doing enough because, I mean,
let me ask you a
just
question.
a small percentage of the budget. Well, we have to go now, Dr. Abasi. This discussion is obviously not 5 minute or 10 minute discussion. It's extensive, and I hope that maybe over the next few weeks we can still have you on the show to talk about specific issues and how people can get help and get help really, really early. All right.